This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and this is kind of a part 2 Old Gamers Rant. I did a video talking about how Nintendo needs to do better. That was inspired by their policies with their Nintendo's Creator Program on YouTube, which check the video out. I'll try to remember to put the links in the description as well to the article that kind of set me off. But this video I want to talk about how Nintendo probably should be burying their competition. If not burying it, at least be neck and neck with Microsoft and Sony when it comes to the game console industry. So reason I say this is because I remember Nintendo in its heyday. I'm old enough to have owned a NES when it first came out. Yes, when it first came out. I had one the year that it dropped. Not when it dropped, but I got one for Christmas that year. Same thing for the SNES. I didn't get it when it dropped, but I was actually closer because it dropped around my birthday, and I got one for my birthday. So, you know, and I've had N64. That was the last Nintendo system that I owned. But as you can see, I'm pretty familiar with Nintendo consoles. That was what I grew up on. It wasn't until the mid-90s when I got a PlayStation 1 that I actually made a switch away from the Nintendo brand. But, you know, pretty much for the most part, I was all Nintendo. I still love Nintendo. They're one of my favorite companies. I mean, if you grew up in that era of gaming, I would find it hard to believe that you don't love Nintendo, unless you were just such a diehard Sega fan that you know, not fan, but fanboy, that you are on that bullshit that a lot of people are now. It's like, if I like one brand, I must hate the other brand with a passion type of bullshit. No, damn near everybody in that era loved Nintendo. Nintendo did some great things with their consoles. They helped, you know, shape the gaming industry, bring it back to life after the whole crash with the Ataris and the Commodores and things like that. You know, Nintendo it will always have a, you know, they will always be held in high regards as far as I'm concerned. You know, even with their struggles that they're going through now. And yeah, they're going through some struggles because they're not doing as well as a lot of people probably think they should be doing. And a lot of that is because of their business practices. Nintendo seems to have forgot what made them such a great company and what kept them at such a high level. It's not that their product isn't as good anymore, because they still make good quality products. Yes, I know the Wii U is not on par with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, but you know what? The Nintendo systems were, when Nintendo was riding high, they were never on par with their competition. The Sega Master System was a better piece of hardware than the NES. This, you know, Sega Genesis was a better piece of hardware than the Super Nintendo. You know, and even if you want to keep going, you know, when they got to the Sega 32 stuff and all of that, the Saturn, Dreamcast, what have you, hardware-wise, Sega always put out better hardware than Nintendo. The thing was, Nintendo were masters of marketing and branding. They had so many iconic characters, and they would take those iconic characters and they would brand it. It's sort of kind of how, like I always say, one of the things that separate Microsoft from Sony to me is that Microsoft does a much better job of getting their brand out there with their marketing. I think Microsoft, you know, with the 360 era, again, it was one of those situations. 360 to me is kind of a perfect example, because one of those situations where, from a technical standpoint, like a lot of people say now, the PlayStation 3 was better than the Xbox 360 on a lot of different levels. But Microsoft created a system that was easier for developers to work with. But beyond that, they marketed it very well. You the brand Xbox, it has become tied in with a lot of great products like Mountain Dew and Doritos, products that a lot of common people will see. It attached itself to that, and that's kind of what Nintendo would do. Nintendo would attach itself to a lot of different products. The lunch boxes, promotions with different cereal companies, their own cereals, their own cartoons. You had the Mario cartoon, you had the Zelda cartoon. At the time when Mega Man was branded with Nintendo, for the most part, that was a brand association for them. Captain N, things like that. Nintendo's marketing game was on point. It was tremendous. They did the best job I've ever seen anyone do when it comes to marketing a game console. No one has ever come close since. No matter how well Microsoft does, they're not touching anything that Nintendo did back in their heyday. But now Nintendo doesn't necessarily market their product. They don't really try to push it. They don't sell it. They don't put the brand out there anymore. Pretty much they've sat back and, have resigned themselves to the fact that, hey, we're Nintendo. There's enough people out there who still remember us and who still love us, and that will probably get it. That doesn't work. You have to market. You have to be out there. You have to be active. One of the things that got the Wii U started off was the "Can we play" commercials. People gravitated towards that. They showed commercials where they showed everybody using that system and showing how family friendly it was, and that took off. With the Wii U, they're not doing that. Hell, they don't even do that with the 3DS. They could have done that with that as well. Luckily for them, 3DS is selling extremely well. They got lucky with that, but they could make the 3DS so much more. Like, the Vita would have been dead 2 years ago if Nintendo honestly did market the way they used to. But they don't spend the money to promote their products. Nor do they do another thing they used to do, which was they used to go out there and they used to continue creating relationships with third parties. I think that's something that could help them as well. Now, I will say this about the whole third-party situation. I can understand why Nintendo wouldn't want to necessarily gravitate towards third-party today, because even though they don't have the Nintendo seal of approval anymore, Nintendo's still kind of strict on how they want products on their system to come out. Nintendo's not necessarily as connected as the PlayStation or the Xbox. They don't really have a robust network system and all that. But one of the things that's key to that is that it means that as a developer, you don't have the crutch like you do with PlayStation and Xbox. Right now, developers don't have to put out whole games on those. They just have to pass certification. And once they pass certification, hey, they could patch in any fixes they need. And clearly, certification doesn't require you to have a whole completed game, just enough of it to get past cert. So that's why a lot of people, will continue to maintain relationship with Sony and Microsoft, because they can't get away with the shit that they can with Nintendo. So I kind of understand how the third party thing probably doesn't work that well with Nintendo in that aspect, but I still think that they need to grab third parties and try to get to them. There has to be a happy medium somewhere, but for the most part, I really do think if Nintendo came with their marketing like they used to, Nintendo could be in a better place. But they don't push their product. They don't let people know what their product. And it's one of those things I've always said that was the issue with Sony. Sony doesn't push their products enough. Microsoft, they push the hell out of their stuff. They want you to recognize their brand. They want you to gravitate it. That's why it's working. It's starting to work towards this whole Microsoft ecosystem with Windows and Connect and all these other things, because they're making this a brand like Nintendo made themselves a brand back in the 80s and 90s. And Nintendo needs to realize that they need to go back to that, because Nintendo is still one of the most recognizable brands in the world despite their struggles. If they were to put themselves out there more, they can be in a much better position in my mind. But anyway, you guys hit me up, let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Black Megas, and I'm out. Deuces.